Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I am here to tell you about writing a gate statement, which is a really helpful part of doing a paper when you are writing for English class, when you're writing about somebody else's writing. Having this first sentence be a gate statement is going to help the reader understand what you're talking about. So the reader doesn't necessarily know what you're talking about as soon as you start writing, even if it's me. Believe it or not, your teacher oftentimes does not understand what you're trying to tell them, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. You can assume that the reader has never read your book, and you can assume that the reader's going to make a judgment about you after reading what you've written. Now, that doesn't really matter if you don't care about grades, but if you have an online dating profile and you put some writing down on it, somebody's going to judge you and maybe want to date you or not. So think about that whenever you put writing down to the page. Gate statements are here to help you. So it's the first sentence in your essay. It explains to the reader exactly what the book, author, and genre are that you are talking about, and you need to keep it simple. So right now, I want everybody to stand up. I know you're going to love doing this, and you are going to pretend like you are opening a gate and walking through it slowly. And step back and do it a few times. Think about how we don't want to do what this guy is doing and fall flat on our face. We want to make sure that we get smoothly through that gate. So when should I use a gate statement? When writing about other people's writing. So we want to make sure we know what the genre, author, title, and we have an evaluation of the work in one sentence. So GATE is actually an acronym. And what does each part mean? G is for genre. So what kind of book or what kind of story is it? Usually we deal with fiction in English class, but we oftentimes maybe are reading a memoir or we are doing a short story or something like that. So you have to think about what kind of book we're reading. And if you're talking about fiction, remember that fictional is the adjective. So the fictional book is how you would describe a book. Fiction, the word fiction is a noun. Ask your teacher if you're not sure. And if I'm your teacher, I'd be happy to help. The A stands for author. And this is really important to make sure you're giving credit to the person whose work that you are trying to understand and putting out in writing. So capitalize that first and last name. And then for the rest of the paper, you can just use the author's last name. Don't worry about their first name. T stands for title, right? So you want to make sure if it is a novel, you are using italics, if it's a whole book. If it's a short story, you're going to put quotation marks around it. Again, we're capitalizing the main words only in the title. No need to use any bold or underlining. And finally, the last part of the sentence, and it might be kind of blended together, is the evaluation. Was this book worth reading and why? Also could just be a little half sentence summary of the book. So I'm going to give you some examples because this is the hardest part. Look at these sample GATE statements. I've highlighted each of the letters of GATE in each statement. In the first one, in the fictional book written by William Golding called Lord of the Flies, Golding writes about boys stranded on an island. I give you basically a whole summary of the book in half a sentence. He writes about boys being stranded on an island. It's not a very fancy sentence necessarily, but it does the job and helps us understand what the essay is going to be about. In the second example, the autobiography of Martin Luther King Jr. is an incredible story from King's own voice about the struggles of civil rights in America. You'll notice in the pink part, we give an opinion. It's an incredible story, right? We also talk about the author King again, and we have the genre and the author right in the title of the book. How crazy. So we have a little summary of the book and an opinion, and that happens again in the next example. In Born a Crime, a hilarious memoir, the comedian Trevor Noah writes about growing up in the South during the fall of apartheid. This is our evaluation. It's hilarious. That's an opinion. And the summary is about him growing up during the fall of apartheid in South Africa. So you can mix up the GATE order when you do your own. There are some practice sentence stems I've put here where you can plug in your own genre, author, title, and you'll see they're not in the GATE order. So the assignment for today is to write your own GATE statement on the graphic organizer that you were provided for homework. Thank you and have a wonderful day.